My name is Eleanor Hayes. I am 40 years old. And there is something I have never told another living soul. Not my co-workers. Not my neighbors. Not the women who drink coffee with me every Thursday morning. Not even the people who believe they know me best. For years, I buried the truth so deeply inside myself that sometimes I convinced myself it never happened. But pain does not disappear just because you refuse to speak its name. It waits. Quietly. Like smoke trapped behind a wall. And eventually, it finds a way out. Tonight, for the first time in my life, I am going to tell the story of the greatest betrayal I ever survived. The betrayal that destroyed the woman I used to be. And the betrayal that forced me to become someone entirely new. At 27, I still carried that survival instinct like armor under my skin. I trusted very few people. Except for one. Vanessa. Vanessa Brooks had been my best friend since community college. She was the kind of woman who walked into a room and made everyone brighter. Men noticed her immediately. Women copied her hair color. Waiters gave her free desserts. She laughed loudly. Dressed boldly. Loved recklessly. And somehow, she loved me too. Or at least I thought she did. She knew everything about me. Every insecurity. Every fear. Every scar. She knew I cried alone after difficult shifts. She knew I still listened to my mother's old voicemail messages. She knew I sometimes skipped meals to save money. And she knew about Daniel. God. Daniel. Even now, saying his name feels like touching a bruise. Daniel Carter walked into the jazz bar one rainy Thursday night wearing a dark blue coat soaked from the storm outside. He sat alone. Ordered whiskey. Listened to the piano player like the music mattered. Most men at the bar looked at women like they were shopping. Daniel looked at people like he was trying to understand them. That difference changed everything. For weeks, he came every Thursday. Then every Thursday and Saturday. Eventually, he stayed after closing just to talk with me while I stacked glasses behind the counter. He asked real questions. Not the shallow kind. He wanted to know what frightened me. What I dreamed about. What kind of childhood I had. Nobody had ever asked me those things before. Not sincerely. Daniel made me feel visible. And when you spend most of your life feeling invisible, visibility becomes addictive. 3 months later, we fell in love. At least, I did. I remember the exact night I realized it. We were driving through downtown Portland after midnight while snow drifted slowly across the windshield. The heater in his car barely worked. I was wrapped in his oversized coat. And he reached over, touched my hand gently, and said, "You know what I like about you, Ellie?" I smiled. "What?" "You never pretend to be someone else." I looked out the window because I suddenly felt emotional for reasons I didn't fully understand. Then he said something that would haunt me years later. "You're safe." Safe. I spent years replaying that word. Because the people who destroy you most completely are usually the ones who first convince you they would never hurt you. The betrayal began so quietly I almost missed it. That is the terrifying thing about betrayal. It rarely arrives screaming. Usually, it enters your life disguised as something ordinary. One Friday evening, Vanessa showed up at my apartment crying. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her hands trembled. She told me her boyfriend had cheated on her. I hugged her immediately. Of course I did. She was my best friend. I made tea. Wrapped her in blankets. Played old movies in the background while she cried against my shoulder. Around midnight, Daniel came over with takeout. He sat beside Vanessa for nearly an hour listening to her talk about heartbreak. At one point she grabbed his hand and said, "You're such a good man." I remember smiling. Proud. Proud that the man I loved was kind to my hurting friend. I had no idea that moment would replay in my head for years. Because sometimes memory becomes cruel after the truth arrives. Vanessa stayed the night. The next morning, I worked an early shift at the dental office. Daniel said he would lock the apartment when they left. I kissed him goodbye. I kissed both of them goodbye. And I walked out the door believing my life was stable. Safe. Normal. I did not know my entire future had already started cracking beneath my feet. The strange thing about intuition is that your body notices danger long before your mind accepts it. Weeks passed. Then months. Little things changed. Daniel started checking his phone more often. Vanessa stopped looking directly at me sometimes. Conversations would suddenly become awkward when all three of us were together. I noticed. But I ignored it. Because acknowledging suspicion means risking the destruction of everything you love. And I wasn't ready for that. One night, Vanessa cancelled dinner plans at the last minute. Said she had the flu. Later that same evening, Daniel claimed he needed to help a coworker with a work emergency. At 2 in the morning, I woke up thirsty. While reaching for my phone, I accidentally opened social media. And there it was. A photo someone had tagged at a downtown rooftop bar. In the blurry background stood Daniel. Beside him was Vanessa. Her hand rested on his chest. Both of them smiling. My stomach dropped so violently I thought I might throw up. I stared at the image for nearly 10 minutes. Then I did something pathetic. I convinced myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe coworkers were there. Maybe they ran into each other unexpectedly. Because denial is easier than grief. Especially at the beginning. The next morning, I asked Daniel about it casually. He did not hesitate. Vanessa was there with friends, he said. We bumped into each other for like 5 minutes. Then he kissed my forehead. And I believed him. Not because the explanation made sense. But because love makes intelligent people foolish. The truth arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. It was raining. Of course it was raining. I had just finished a double shift at the dental office because another receptionist called in sick. I was exhausted. My feet hurt. I remember thinking about going home and taking the longest shower of my life. Then my phone rang. Vanessa. I answered immediately. But instead of Vanessa speaking, I heard breathing. Heavy breathing. Then crying. Finally, her voice. Ellie. Something inside me froze. What happened? Silence. Then. I need to tell you something. Every terrible moment of your life has a sound. A hospital monitor. A slammed door. A trembling voice. Mine was the sound of rain hitting my windshield while my best friend destroyed my world. It wasn't supposed to happen, she whispered. I stopped breathing. Vanessa, what are you talking about? Another silence. Then the sentence. The sentence that split my life into before and after. Daniel and I have been seeing each other. I felt physically cold. Not emotionally. Physically. Like all the heat vanished from my body at once. How long? She started crying harder. 8 months. 8 months. 8 months of dinners. 8 months of lies. 8 months of kisses. 8 months of pretending. I stared through the windshield at people crossing the street with umbrellas while my entire reality collapsed. Then I asked the question that mattered most. Does he love you? She whispered. Yes. There are moments when pain becomes so large it no longer feels real. You almost leave your own body. That happened to me. I remember hearing myself laugh. A broken laugh. The kind that sounds frightening even to the person making it. Then she said the second sentence that destroyed me. He said he was going to leave you. I hung up. I don't remember driving home. To this day, I do not remember a single traffic light. I only remember unlocking my apartment door and seeing Daniel sitting on the couch. Comfortable. Relaxed. Watching television. Like he hadn't just shattered my life. He looked up and smiled. And that smile nearly killed something inside me. I stood in the doorway soaked from rain. Daniel muted the television. You okay? He asked. The normalness of his voice made me sick. I stared at him. Really stared. Trying to understand how someone could lie so completely. How long? I asked. His face changed instantly. Not guilt. Recognition. He knew. He slowly stood up. Ellie. How long? Please let me explain. No. My voice cracked. How long? He looked away. Several months. Several months. Such a small phrase for such enormous destruction. I remember grabbing the kitchen counter because my knees felt weak. Then came the sentence I never recovered from. I didn't mean for this to happen. People always say that after betrayal. As if cheating is weather. As if lying is an accident. As if betrayal simply appears out of nowhere. But betrayal is built. Choice by choice. Lie by lie. I asked him if he loved her. He stayed silent. And silence is also an answer. That night, I lost my partner. I lost my best friend. I lost the future I thought I was building. But worse than all of that, I lost trust in my own judgment. Because if the two people closest to me could deceive me for 8 months while looking directly into my eyes every day, then what else in life could be trusted? I wish I could say I reacted with dignity. I didn't. I screamed. I cried. I begged for explanations. At one point, I actually asked him what Vanessa had that I didn't. Even now, remembering that question hurts. Because heartbreak humiliates people. Daniel packed a bag around midnight. Before leaving, he stood by the door and said, "You'll be okay someday." Then he walked out. And I collapsed onto the floor. Alone. Completely alone. People talk about heartbreak poetically. They write songs. Movies. Beautiful quotes. But real heartbreak is uglier. Real heartbreak looks like forgetting to eat for 2 days. It looks like staring at walls for hours. It looks like hearing your own thoughts become dangerous. For months, I barely functioned. I stopped answering calls. Stopped seeing friends. Stopped caring about anything beyond survival. One night, I sat on my bathroom floor at 3 in the morning holding my mother's old sweater against my chest while crying so hard I nearly passed out. And the terrifying part was this. Nobody knew. That is the hidden reality of adult suffering. The world continues. Bills still arrive. People still go to work. The grocery store still opens every morning. Meanwhile, someone nearby is quietly falling apart. I started blaming myself for everything. Maybe I wasn't pretty enough. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I was boring. Maybe love had simply expired. Pain rewrites memory. Suddenly every happy moment felt fake. And then came the final blow. 3 months after Daniel left, Vanessa got pregnant. I learned through social media. A smiling photograph. Both of them holding ultrasound pictures. Caption: "Our little miracle." I vomited in my kitchen sink. Then I cried until sunrise. That was the lowest point of my life. Not because I still wanted Daniel, but because I realized they had moved forward while I remained emotionally destroyed. They built a future using pieces of the life they stole from me. And I felt discarded. Replaceable. Forgotten. That winter nearly destroyed me. But strangely, it also saved me. Because eventually suffering becomes unbearable enough that change is the only remaining option. And one freezing January morning, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. My eyes looked empty. My shoulders sagged. I looked like someone waiting to disappear. And suddenly, something inside me snapped. Not dramatically. Quietly. I remember whispering one sentence to my reflection. "No one is coming to save you." That sentence changed my life. Healing did not arrive beautifully. It arrived painfully. Slowly. Like learning how to walk again after an injury. I picked up extra shifts. Saved every dollar. Started taking business classes online at night. I slept 4 hours some weeks. But exhaustion felt better than grief. I stopped waiting for apologies. Stopped imagining revenge. Stopped checking their social media. Instead, I focused on survival. Then growth. Then ambition. By 32, I had become office manager at the dental practice. By 35, I helped open a second location. At 37, I launched my own consulting company helping small medical offices improve operations. The woman who once cried on a bathroom floor became someone clients respected. Someone financially independent. Someone strong. But strength has a hidden cost. Sometimes survival hardens people. I became excellent at protecting myself, terrible at trusting. Years passed. I dated occasionally. Nothing lasted. Every time someone got close, fear whispered. What if they lie too? What if you miss the signs again? Trauma teaches vigilance, even long after danger is gone. And yet, despite everything, I survived. Not gracefully, not perfectly, but completely. And there is power in that. I was 39 when I saw Vanessa again. A random Tuesday. Frozen food aisle. The universe has a cruel sense of humor. She recognized me first. I almost didn't know her. Life had changed her. Not physically. Emotionally. The brightness she once carried seemed dimmer somehow. Beside her stood a little boy around 6 years old. Daniel's son. Their son. My chest tightened. For one terrible second, the old pain returned. Sharp. Sudden. But then something unexpected happened. Vanessa started crying. Right there beside frozen vegetables. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I froze. After 12 years. There it was. The apology I once begged God to hear. She told me Daniel had cheated on her repeatedly during their marriage. Told me he eventually left. Told me she spent years understanding what she had done to me. I listened quietly. And strangely, I felt nothing. No triumph. No revenge. No satisfaction. Just sadness. Because pain had traveled in circles and wounded everyone eventually. Before leaving, Vanessa looked at me with tears in her eyes and asked, "How did you survive it?" I thought carefully before answering. Then I said, "Because I had no choice." And that was the truth. People look at me now and see success. They see a confident woman with her own company. A beautiful house. A polished life. They assume strength came naturally. They do not know how many nights I spent crying silently into pillows. They do not know I still struggle to trust kindness sometimes. They do not know betrayal changes your nervous system. Or how long it takes to stop questioning your worth. But they also do not know this. The woman who survived all of that became impossible to destroy. Not because she stopped feeling pain, but because she learned pain was survivable. That is the secret nobody teaches you. Survival changes you. And one day, after enough suffering, you wake up realizing the people who broke your heart no longer control your life. You become yours again. Completely. I am 40 years old now. And for the first time in my life, I can finally say this without shaking. What happened to me was not my fault. I was betrayed. I was lied to. I was abandoned by the two people I trusted most. But I was not destroyed. And maybe that is why I finally told this story. Because somewhere tonight, another woman is sitting alone on a bathroom floor believing her life is over. And I need her to know something. The ending you imagined may disappear. People you trusted may break your heart. You may lose everything you thought would last forever. But one day, you will look back at the ruins and realize they became the foundation of the strongest version of yourself. And when that day comes, you will understand something beautiful. Surviving betrayal is not the end of your story. Sometimes, it is the beginning.